What up? Uncle Benji here. Welcome back to the channel. Today we're continuing on with the oral history of my collection, and we're going back almost exactly 15 years today. Going back to 4/20 of 2011. And today isn't 4/20, that would have been yesterday, but it's appropriate that time of year that we're talking about rapper Curren and Alchemist, who he made a collaborative project with, Covert Coup. As I said, back on 4/20 in 2011 is when this album came out. And at this point when this came out, I'd been a Curren fan for not too long. I mean, I'd been aware of him for a while, but it really wasn't until Pilot Talk Here came out in 2010, which was an album that really took him from someone that I was just aware of and maybe would listen to some of his mixtapes into someone that I became a big fan of and was really checking for. So this album, Covert Coup with Alchemist, kind of came out of nowhere. They hadn't really been, working with each other. Curren, even at this point in his career, if you know Curren now, he's a super prolific artist. He was back then. He had lots of mixtapes, long form mixtapes of, stuff from that era where you're getting 20 to 30 plus song mixtapes, and he was doing a lot of that. But getting like a really concise album like this one, just 10 songs, all killer, no filler, was a real treat for Curren fans. And there's some cool history about how this album came to be and how it was marketed, because Curren and Alchemist were talking with each other. Alchemist was just kind of getting his own personal label off the ground. And I remember hearing the story about how Curren told Alchemist once it was recorded, we're like putting it up for free. Within like a week or days after it was recorded, Currency's like, yeah, that's the business model. We're not waiting around coming up with a marketing plan. We're like getting that music out there. And then you know what we're going to do, Alchemist? We're going to sell merch. That's how we're going to make money off this. We don't need to lead with the record as something to sell. And I remember seeing interviews with Alchemist, which at that time that didn't really make a lot of sense to him. He was used to marketing his releases, selling his releases as the promo, not leading like merch forward. But Curren was really ahead of the curve on where the internet was going, where streaming was. Everything was free everywhere. Like, he wasn't gatekeeping his music. He was really trying to create a lifestyle around it. As I mentioned at the front, they released this on 4/20. If you know Curren, he always gets labeled or grouped in as a weed rapper. There's a lot of people that get labeled as a weed rapper. It can be very reductive to call someone a weed rapper when they're really rapping about a lot more than that. That might be a present element of it. And like I said, there's been lots of rappers from all areas who have gotten that label, and some, flourish and continue on and just kind of say like, hey, you can label me, I embrace it too, but there's more to me. Some fall under the pressure of that. But Curren is someone that, like I said, it's always been more about the lifestyle than just I'm a weed rapper. It's about his car collection, whether it's the cars in his driveway or the Matchbox cars that he sets up dioramas and races on tracks around. He's into video games. He's into sports. I mean, there was a lot of stuff and lyrics from his rhymes around this time about playing full seasons of sports games on his PlayStation or Xbox, whatever he was playing on. Really getting into it and being kind of a nerd like the rest of us. He took a lot of what was changing in this post-Kanye era where everybody wasn't posturing as a gangster. And it's especially for him interesting as a guy that came up under the tutelage of Lil Wayne and Cash Money and those guys. He came up under that umbrella. But at a certain point, he had the wherewithal to recognize what I'm offering is a little different. Like, yeah, I'm a street guy, but it's like I'm not just selling the traditional rap things. Yeah, I may be a weed rapper, but it's not necessarily violence. Yes, I'm talking about women. Like, that's, another aspect of it. But staying fly, driving his classic cars, staying high, looking good, playing video games, just enjoying a laid-back lifestyle with his friends, his homies, and ladies in New Orleans, where he's from. You know, that's the Currency thing, and he's able over the years to wrap a lot of people into his orbit, and his Jet Life clothing brand is always there with all of his releases. You know, still to this day, every year, one of the most prolific artists out there. And like, I can't say now, many years later, after being a Currency fan, that I keep up with every release that he's done. There's just too many for me to do so, and my tastes have evolved. The Currency is, while it's more than just a weed rapper, it is something that you, when you listen to Currency's albums, you know what you're going to get, and he always delivers on it. You know, it's never a disappointment. He has relationships with a lot of really great beat makers. He has relationships with all sorts of different kinds of MCs that he spotlights on his projects. He had an album last year with a track with Bruiser Wolf that's one of the best verses of the year. And Currency just sounds right at home alongside any one of these rappers, whether they're from Detroit, whether they're from Oakland, whether they're from New York. Anywhere MCs are from, Currency sounds great right alongside them. And this album originally did come out on vinyl. I don't think it was right away in 2011. I'd have to go back and check to see, but I know that the initial run of vinyl was before I started buying vinyl in 2013. So somewhere there between 2011 and 2012, they pressed this on vinyl. And this is a repress that came out in 2022. It has really cool artwork on here. You know, the statue of Stalin toppled. They have, you know, a great inside cover in there with more artwork. But there's some great features on the back here. I mean, you got Prodigy on here. You got Blood, Sweat, and Tears with Fiend. Fiend was also like a guy that came out of that No Limit, Cash Money, New Orleans scene. And that might be, I say definitely is, my favorite song on this project. Blood, Sweat, and Gears, just an incredible beat by Alchemist. And Fiend like crooning on it, and Currency just rapping his ass off. That's a really, really special song. But, you know, for people listening to this album, I wouldn't be surprised if almost any of these songs could be somebody's favorite. I mean, the beat on BBS right off the start. You got Scottie Pippen with Freddie Gibbs, who, if you know the modern history with Alchemist and Freddie Gibbs and Currency, there's some tension there, but it seems like maybe it's squashed on some level. But that, you know, they sound great when they're together. Scottie Pippen is a classic track that's on here. I mean, you go all the way through from Ventilation, Full Metal, just so many amazing songs, some great videos that Currency put out around this era too. You know, we put out the album for free for everyone. We put out these videos to promote it. We put out merch, you know, and then that just creates that fan base. It creates those people that are loyal Currency fans that go to his shows. I mean, I've worked at places over the years with people that aren't even really rap fans, or at least not even close to the scene of the type of stuff that I'm into, but they're Currency fans, you know. So he transcends a lot, where even though he's not a mainstream artist, he doesn't have stuff on radio. If you have someone who's casually into rap, like listens to Drake and Kendrick, they're probably aware of Currency. They probably know about him because he's just got this really cool flavor and profile out there about his music, where it's consistent, it's reliable, he's always there for you. And if you want to get in that mood, if you want to vibe out, maybe smoke one, Currency's one of those guys that you can listen to and you know he's always going to deliver, while you're going, whether you're going back and listening to the old classics like these, or if you're tapping into his more recent material. I don't have like a super extensive Currency collection because, again, like over the years, he's just put out so much stuff, and it's not one of those artists where I feel like, oh, I need to buy everything he's doing. But I do have quite a bit. I have another one back here, collaboration with Harry Fraud Cigarette Boats. That's an album that I wrote a review on back in the day when I was doing my blogging. So this, especially this era of Currency from like 2010 to 2015 or so, that's really the era where I was super tapped in and buying some stuff from Currency. And he's come and performed here in Indianapolis many times. Always a great performer, just a great dude. So this is the first video I've done highlighting anything from Currency, but I would still say to this day that this Covert Coup album is one that is my favorite Currency project. It's just pound for pound is tough to top this. It's some of Alchemist's best work, just beats that blow my mind still to this day listening back at them. And Currency just really in, I think, the prime of his career, with some great collaborations, some great verses, and some great vibes laid down on this. So, this reissue is probably definitely a lot easier to get than the original vinyl release. But whether you have this on vinyl or just listen to it on streaming, if you're a modern Currency fan, make sure you're going back and giving that album the proper attention, because if it's not the best in his catalog, it's got to be one of those that's up there at the very top. So that's the video for today, y'all. Happy belated 420. Uncle Benji. Till next time, peace out.